So, recently I had this really interesting experience at work. So where I work with people from all over the world, um, because they're all master and PhD students. And what I noticed is there's this one guy, and he's one of the kindest guys I've ever met. Honestly, one of the sweetest guys. When I was there, he took me out to lunch on the first couple days, and very soft-spoken, very kind, considerate, compassionate guy, man. Like, salt of the earth. A sick lad, honestly. And, he's awesome. And I think we've all met people like that. And, he's such a nice guy and everything, and what I noticed is, I noticed this interesting thing that was happening to him, and watching it kind of objectively. Now, everyone in that lab, let me tell you, is some of the kindest people I've ever met. There's no malice. These aren't malicious people. These are, I would say, normal people in every sense of the world, besides the fact that they're very intelligent people. Now, I noticed this interesting thing. He's so kind, right? There's no reason to not like him, but there's this phenomena that I notice wherein whenever he interacts with the other people in the lab, he quickly gets shut down. His opinions, his attempts to start conversations, they're often mitigated. I don't know if that's the right word. They're often shut down. Let's just go with for now. And it's weird to watch, because it's interesting, I should say, to watch how men interact with them and how women interact with them. And that's kind of what I want to focus on today. An idea I've been trying to figure out in my mind, and I wanted to document as I try and figure it out. Something about nice guy syndrome, right? See, the thing is, first off, let me preface this. Like I said, these are incredibly intelligent and competent women. These are not, they're not dumb, or they're not, like, even average. These are women pursuing PhDs and masters in biomechanics. So these are very, very intelligent, critical women, and beautiful, from Sweden, Germany, Brazil, everywhere. The thing is, when he talks to these women, they're dismissive of him. And I was like, why? He's so kind. He's always, asking them how they are, how was their weekend, stuff like that. But they're very dismissive. And men are the same to him. The difference is that women seem to get frustrated with him, and men just seem to shake him off. And it got me really thinking about nice guys and what that means. And a realization that came to me, and that has been coming to me over the past couple months, years really, I think, about what it means to be a nice guy. And what I think is this. I think the reason women find it so easy to dismiss him is because they don't find him dangerous. Right? And I think that in male-female interaction, danger is a really critical component of attraction. Right? I think that men pursue danger in their lives through action. Right? Men do stupid things and dangerous things. And we're not, and to more of an extent, right? And I don't mean this in a way of like, this only men can do this, only women. There are plenty of dangerous women and all that. That's not the point. En masse and general, I think men are more dangerous than women. We do stupider things and we do more dangerous things, right? And that is a fact as well. We know that men take more dangerous jobs and all that. Again, that's not to say they're not dangerous women, but that's not the point. But, so it got me thinking. I was like, well, women like danger too. Well, they're human, right? And I think in human nature, we're adventurous. So how do women pursue danger? And I think women pursue danger emotionally. And that's a piece of the puzzle in my mind as I'm figuring this out, towards the age-old question of why women go for bad boys. Because women also want to pursue danger. They want to pursue things that are on the edge of chaos. Right? And they do that through picking partners that are potentially dangerous. And when they find a guy who's not dangerous at all, they become dismissive of him. even if he's so kind. And the reason is because in him they don't see adventure. And when something's not adventurous, it's boring, right? The opposite of adventure is boredom. And when something's boring, it's not high on the priority scale. It's not high in the, the dominance hierarchy. That's something Jordan Peterson talks about a lot, right? But he's not high in the dominance hierarchy because he's not dangerous. So it got me thinking, what is the role of danger in attraction and interaction? And I don't just mean male-female attraction. I mean male-to-male attraction, right? Like the ability, like guys who you want to hang out with. And I think the reason for that is because danger is an underpinning of adventure, and adventure is an underpinning of greatness, risk, right? Because if you're not a risky guy, if you're not a risky guy, and I will talk about this through the lens of men and manhood, because that's what I know and that's what I'm trying to understand and cultivate in my life. But as men, when we're not willing to be dangerous, I think we cut off a very natural, primal, important part of ourselves. Now, growing up, I was always the nice guy. I was the nice guy for, I would say, right through high school, right until I graduated. Now, I was very successful. That it didn't hinder me with women, and it didn't hinder me in social interactions. But there were other reasons for that. I was successful in other ways, and I understood the social game enough to know how to play it. But I was a nice guy. Once I got out of high school, I got walloped for it. And I understood why. I didn't at the time. I think I'm starting to now. And the reason is that a lack of danger is not a sign of intelligence. It's often a sign of more cowardice. Because it's a refusal to come to terms with or to act out your potential and to put yourself in the sphere of risk. Right? Because so what does that mean? That means when you're trying to manifest your potential of who you could be, there's a risk associated because you could fail. Now, failure can have a lot of consequences, right? You can fail and you can hurt yourself. You can fail and be socially walloped for it. You can fail and, just feel terrible about yourself. Your self-confidence can go down, and those are all very valid reasons. But I think the risks that are associated with it are the thing that make it valuable. Because it's in overcoming that, right? That's why hero myths, right? Like great, Greek myths, like, Hercules and Achilles and stuff, and any culture's myths, hero myths. The hero has to take on a task of considerable risk, and the risk must match the reward. Right? If Achilles fails in the Trojan War, they lose the war they've been fighting for 40 years? In the Hindu epics, in the Mahabharata, if Arjun doesn't fight, if he doesn't take the risk, he's gonna kill half of his family and lose all the kingdom for them. And he's gonna let the tyrant take control. And maybe there's something to be said there, there's something about the archetypes and ideas of tyranny taking over if the hero doesn't carry his burden of risk. There's tyranny, and maybe tyranny in that case is order, right? It's excessive order. And these are ideas I'm pulling from Jordan Peterson again, and kind of those evolutionary psychologists and stuff. But that makes sense to me. I feel comfortable sharing that because it makes sense to me. I don't know if it's right. Well, I do think it's right, but you have to take on the risk because the reward has to be matching. So bringing that back, what does that mean? I think what it means is that to become a more fully realized man, there is a necessity to take on risk. And when you do take on that risk, there's a mischievous part of you that grows. Because often taking on that risk means breaking the rules. Now, I'm not saying go off and break like all the rules that are put there for very good reason, but breaking some of the rules. Not listening to your parents all the time in minor, ways that aren't going to destroy everything. Not listening to authority all the time. And Nietzsche talks about that in Thus Spake Zarathustra. He talks about the dragon that a man has to overcome, that his scales are all thou shalt not, or something, I think is the dragon's name. And that's the dragon's name, thou shalt not. It's all it's a manifestation of all the authority and the figures telling you what you should and shouldn't do, and you have to overcome that to move to the next stage of your evolution as a man or as a person. And that makes sense to me, because when you don't take on risk, you end up in the nice guy syndrome. And I think the nice guy syndrome is just a manifestation of an inner problem, right? I don't think nice guy syndrome is so much a problem of the external world is more of just kind of the symptom, your failure with women and men and interaction. The real problem is internal, and that internal problem is you're not moving from potential to reality. You're not letting risk permeate you. So what you're doing is you're living a safe life. And as you live that safe life, you're not allowing yourself to integrate, because you're not putting yourself in a position to fail. And when you fail, you'll learn. But if you succeed, you grow stronger. Right? That's why, I think about some of the most manly men I've met, or some of the most integrated men is the right word to use, I think. Some of the manly and integrated, I feel like for me, they really do go together, because very masculine men, or manly men, not necessarily masculine, because men who are really masculine, I've found, have a touch of femininity to them. They're so comfortable that they can almost be feminine in some ways. And it's really interesting to watch. But those men, there's this hardness, there's strength in them. And I think that strength is a manifestation of taking repeated, intelligent risks that make them a bad boy. So when we're younger, we don't know how to characterize it. So we say bad boys and nice guys. What is a bad boy? A bad boy is just someone who takes risks. Now, often they take excessive risks and stupid risks, which is why by the time they're 30, they're, not that great off, because they don't know the other part of it. They don't understand the moderation part of it. But as I'm getting older and I'm trying to pay attention, for someone who's come from the nice guy camp, I'm learning to kind of shift between the two. I'm learning to take on risks, to break the rules, to argue, to say no to thou shalt, to try and slay the dragon in intelligent and chosen ways, right? And as I've done that, I've found myself becoming stronger in character, and more successful in my interactions with people. Because, before, here's a great example, before, I was very compromising. If I was talking to someone who I wasn't comfortable with, or someone who was I perceived as having higher status than me, I would be very deferent to them. Now, I'm learning to say no. I'm learning to ask at least for what I want, even if they're more than me. I'll challenge you. Just because you're older than me, or just because you're my boss, doesn't mean I won't challenge you. And the opposite happened to what I thought. I thought I'd get walloped for it, but instead people started respecting me more. They've started to listen to me more. Now, it's a fine balance, and I don't know where that balance is. I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't doubt that I'm going to wander too far to one side, and then I'm going to have to try and figure it back out. But I feel like I'm kind of slowly, intelligently learning that. A couple months ago, I got pulled over by the police for speeding. That was kind of one of those moments that I realized I was probably pushing. I use that as a sign from the universe, if that's not too metaphysical, that, you know, you're pushing too far. And my brother talked to me during that time of my life, and he said, look, dude, I think, because my brother's a very wise man, he said, I think this is just a manifestation of you pushing too hard on the aggressive side, trying to understand your aggressive side. And that's what I took it as, so I tried to kind of, you know, bring it back to the nice guy, calm down, and now I'm pushing, now I'm more carefully and purposefully pushing, as opposed to before when I was just mad and aggressively trying to figure that part of myself out. So, this is just something, yeah man, this is just something I wanted to talk about. I feel like there's more to say about this, so I'll think more about it and write a bit more about it. But nice guy syndrome, to kind of bring it home, I think nice guy syndrome is a manifestation of a refusal to take risks. It's an external symptom of an internal problem, and that internal problem is the refusal, the repression of your natural masculine aggression. That's the best way to say it. Definitely the case for me. For me, I've grown up with so much love and so much kindness and so much of the gentle side of life that I never really understood my aggression, and I never explored it or had it kind of come to me in high school, junior high, like most guys have it around then. It never happened to me. I was a very late bloomer. Now's the time in my life when I'm starting to feel aggression, and it sucks on one hand, because when you're in junior high you can get a fight and it's not a big deal. Now if I do it, it's assault and battery, so, you know. But so I've had to kind of really pay attention and learn how to deal with it. But what it is understanding how aggression is such a natural and important part of the masculine energy, and not repressing it, but accepting it and loving it, and, you know, just embodying it and learning how to then transmutate it into different forms, right? All these creative things, you know, all these works I'm doing, this, my scientific research, my work in theater, these are all an expression of my aggression towards life now. So instead of, you know, beating, I picked up boxing. That's, you know, a more easy, you know, more obvious expression, but these are all expressions of my attempt to aggress upon life, my vitality and my energy, and I think it's a part of our masculinity that we're not exploring, and to our danger, and that we're not teaching young guys to explore, and that in many ways we're silencing, and I think it's having catastrophic effects. And I can only speak from my experience, but as I watch, it's weird, and I don't think it's natural. So nice guy syndrome, part 1, maybe, is just that story, and kind of what I realized from it, that you have to be willing to explore your darkness and your aggression, because if you don't, you either get spurned by the world and become resentful, which is what you see with a lot of nice guys, right? You're texting them, they're like, oh hey beautiful, how are you? And then you don't reply, and they're like, what the fuck, bitch, right? Excuse my French, but yeah, that makes sense, right? Because they're still aggressive, they just don't have it. So then the question is, oh, were they ever nice guys? Well, yes, but that wasn't a good thing, right? So, exploration and intelligent expression of aggression is what I'm finding in my life making a big difference, and I'm realizing is very key for me. Alright, done. Let's wrap this up.